Welcome to Saddle Up Live, a transformative podcast tailored for women aged 40 and beyond, where courage, God's grace, and a touch of sass are the driving forces behind conquering life's challenges. Join me, Lesa Koski, as I take you on a captivating ride through the multifaceted aspects of womanhood in this vibrant stage of life. We are covering everything from my journey through breast cancer, the intricacies of marriage, and the joys of motherhood, to the exciting adventures of grandparenting. In each episode, we saddle up for candid conversations about God, health, relationships, family dynamics, and the beautiful chaos that comes along the way. But here's the twist. Saddle Up Live goes beyond navigating the highs and lows of life. It's a platform dedicated to sharing what we have learned along the way. I want to help women thrive through it all. Together, we'll uncover actionable strategies for personal and professional development, providing you with the tools and inspiration needed to blaze new trails and seize every opportunity that comes your way. Moreover, we are committed to helping you suffer less and live more fully. Through our discussions on God, health, wellness, and mindfulness, we explore practical techniques for managing stress, cultivating resilience, and embracing a holistic approach to self-care. So whether you're looking for practical advice, heartfelt stories, or simply a supportive community of like-minded women, saddle up and join us on this exhilarating ride. Because at Saddle Up Live, we believe every woman deserves to thrive, flourish, and live her best life, no matter her age or stage. Welcome, listeners, to Saddle Up Live. I'm so excited today. I have kind of a big deal here. I said I was a little starstruck, but I've gotten to talk to her on my other podcast, Doing Divorce Different. So if any of you are wanting to hear more about dating after divorce, go there. But today I have relationship expert Laurie Gerber here, and we are going to talk about how to keep that fire burning. I've been in a 32-year marriage. Laurie's been in one almost as long, and people, she is good. She's been on Dr. Phil. She's been on TV and MTV. I think she said A&E, and she's got a wealth of knowledge. So Laurie, thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you for having me. You're such a fun chat. I would talk to you all day.
Well, we could. I mean, I feel like there are so many topics, but today is particularly special to me because I want to keep the fire burning in my own marriage, and I think a lot of people do. And so before we really delve into that, I want to hear your story about what led you here. And then I really want to get into it because I think I had a realization probably a year or two ago, and my kids now, I have grandchildren, and my baby's in college, and I had this realization that I didn't put my husband first. I put my kids first, and then my business was first, and then suddenly I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing? And so that's why I think this is going to be so important, and I don't think that I'm alone in women my age doing that. So anyway, Laurie, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Great to be here. Thank you. Love this topic so much. It's so near and dear to my heart.
Yes. And so can you share your story as to what led you to do this work?
Okay. Let's go back to my young 30s, about 20 years ago. I hire a coach to help me with my business. I'm like you. I love my children and I love my business. And my husband, we'll see. Okay. So I go to this coach and I ostensibly want to, increase my business and get better work-life balance. And she encourages me, requires of me that I must answer questions in every single area of my life because she is assessing a whole person, as no parts of a person can be separated. And so I have to say my dream in all of the areas of my life, including love, including body, including health, including fun, spirituality, career, money, everything. And then I have to say a current rating. And lo and behold, she notices that I have said that my dream for my marriage is that we be deeply connected and intimate. And my rating is about a 4, I think. I don't totally remember, but that's my guess, remembering how it was back then, which was not good. We had 2 young kids. Now we have 3 big kids. But at the time we had 2 young kids and a really good on paper life. We were both working for ourselves. We had an apartment in Manhattan. My business was ostensibly growing. And he was handsome and kind and, all the things that you'd want. And everybody would have said, luckiest girl in the world. But I knew the truth, which was that we were not communicating. We were not intimate. We were not having sex. And we were starting to argue more and more and more and more. In fact, at one point he said, if you're going to treat me like this, I want a divorce. And that is kind of what actually made me pay attention for the first time. And that's after, 10 years of it kind of slowly sort of going downhill. So my coach warns me if I don't save my marriage, it's going to really mess up all the other areas of my life. I cannot deny that. That sounds true to me. So I go, oh, what do I do? She goes, well, tell me why you don't have that intimate connection. And I say, smart Alec that I am, I don't think he cares much about intimacy. And he's kind of like a jock. I don't think he likes talking about real matters, right? I married a cute jock, right? And she's like, that is no. I mean, first of all, she knew my husband. And second of all, she was like, I've heard this BS before. No. That is not an answer. And do really not have anything better. And I'm like, I've tried. I had all my excuses. And she goes, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go back. You're going to sit him down. You're going to make it so safe. And you're going to read him the dream that you wrote. And you're going to ask him why he thinks you don't have it. Why would I have never thought of that? Never occurred to me. Okay, yeah. So she thought of it. Thank God for coaches. Okay, so I sit him down. I read this dream. I'm feeling very vulnerable, but I'm like going to be a good student and get my homework done and bring an answer back to the coach. And at first, he does not want to tell me the answer. He's like, we're fine. It's going to be okay. He's just.
Men like to say that.
Right?
Yeah.
And they really do believe it a lot of the time.
Yes.
But I am not going back empty-handed to my coach. And I know we are not going in a good direction because I've heard him say the D word. And so I somehow made it safe enough for him. I don't know what I said, but I said, and I was desperate because I was not going to go back empty-handed because I am a good student. And I said, please just tell me. I promise I will not get mad. I promise I will listen. I promise you won't be in trouble. I just really need to know your perspective. Okay. And he took a deep breath and a risk and he goes, okay, Laurie, here's the thing. My experience with you is that whenever I try to talk to you, I barely get 3 sentences in before you interrupt me. And I get it. That works for you and your friends and whatever. But for me, it is like a physical assault. I cannot get my train of thinking back. I feel so disrespected. It's not even on topic most of the time. It's about, you make it about you. I stopped trying to talk to you years ago. Exactly. So I was speechless, right? I was like, wow, that's not what I wrote in my homework. But thank you. And I was cool. I was really proud of myself because I knew that was a moment of truth. And in that moment of truth, my life passed before my eyes. It was one of those moments where I was like, oh, my brother said I was selfish and I've been called selfish before. And I do interrupt a lot and, and I wanted to defend myself. I felt that, that urge arise to be like, well, you talk so slow and I'm helping and I know what you're going to say. And, I feel like, the excuse list is so long, but I knew I had this choice in that moment. And then what flashed in front of me was I said, love, honor, and cherish till death do us part in front of everyone I know. And I never listened to a whole thing he had to say. Like I couldn't argue. He was right. I never sat still and listened to the whole thing, whatever it was. And that was not love, honor, and cherish. And so I was embarrassed. I was humbled. I was moved. I was motivated. And I made a promise to him in that moment, which I knew from my coaching would be the right thing to do. I said, I will not interrupt you anymore. You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. I meant it. And I meant it for the first time.
I think it's so telling that you're saying this. I think I just interrupted you, Laurie. Sorry.
I don't think it's interrupted, actually. I don't think it's a moral thing, honestly.
But it's interesting because when you said that, a light bulb went off in my head, and I think I'm like you. I don't know if that's common.
Well, let me just say, as women, we are biologically and physiologically able to multitask. We are able to think our own thoughts and listen to another person. We are able to talk over each other and hear. I mean, we just have different brains than men. Men are biologically programmed to hunt a deer. They're biologically programmed to focus on one thing at a time. So we're just so different. And I really don't mind being interrupted. I don't. I can remember what I'm thinking and listen to what you're saying. And I believe I'm going to get my point across. Right. So, but that is not how his brain works. He is a jock. He has a lot of concussions. He's extremely intelligent, but he was also raised by a minister. So he tells stories, and the moral of the stories at the end. And I'm like, I want the answer at the beginning. So we're so different, he and I. But I think a lot of women are actually fine with interruptions, and it's not all women, but I think we are very different. So I think this is a problem in a lot of relationships, not just in a conversation, the woman interrupts the man, but also we interrupt physically. Like I call it popcorning. Like we just like, hi, can you do this for me? Can you? And my husband's constantly saying, number one, I'm not customer service. Number two, I'm leading my own life over here. Like I'm here existing as a human while you're thinking of things for me to do.
Oh my gosh. Laurie, you're like, are you in my head? Are you my soul sister? Because I get up in the morning and I've been like praying and getting my stuff done. And then I jump out of bed and I'm like, hey, we got to like clean that horse stall. Blah, blah. And he's like, good morning.
Exactly. Yes, you're not, again, these are trends. These are phenomena. This is not just you and me. I've heard this over and over. There are not a lot of new complaints under the sun in married couples.
Yeah. Okay. So are you kind of saying that the first thing is to get your husband's take on the relationship? Is that kind of?
Not necessarily. That's really just my story.
Okay.
Right? Like, but I would say write a dream, right? Like write a dream.
Okay.
Programmed your GPS to where you want to go, and you've told the truth to yourself about what you want. And if you can't write a dream, this is interesting, right? If you can't write a dream, it's probably because there's so much crap built up that you have not expressed effectively, and vice versa, that you can't dream anymore. You're so riddled, you can't dream anymore. In that case, write what I call a purge, which is vomit that out for the coach or therapist that you're going to be working with, because you need to take that piece by piece. And for most people in long-term relationships, there are 10 to 30 things on that list. 10 to 30 things, including that thing you said to my sister, that thing that happened at our wedding, the thing I never told you, the way you smell, kiss, chew, breathe. Just the list is usually, unfortunately, 10 to 30 things long. So if you can start with a dream, start with a dream. If you can't start with a dream, start with a shit list.
And don't share the shit list with him, I'm guessing.
Do not share the shit list. Thank you for your good intuition. Correct.
Okay. So then after you write your dream, you rate how close you are to it between 1 and 10. Is that correct?
Correct. And why not? Which then turns into your shit list, right? And you might have to sit on yourself too, right? Which is why I would say, interestingly, which is why I would say it's not always the right next thing to do to go to your partner, because one of the things I discovered in doing that first exercise with my coach is I was completely addicted to sugar. I was completely in love with checking out. So anytime I would have had after my workday and dealing with my kids went to eating and zoning out to television instead of to my intimate partner who I would love, honor, and cherish till death do us part. So I don't know if anyone can relate to that, but I had to get right with my own self first, really.
Yes.
Simultaneously, in this case, to me approaching him, because until I quit sugar, and I eat sugar, but at the time I needed to really detox it. Until I quit sugar to understand its role in my life, and I quit eating to anesthetize myself and keep myself away, I could not access the part of me that wanted to have sex or that wanted to be intimate or that wanted
Right.
sex again. So there's really not one path that fits everybody's situation. That was
Yep.
my
Well, and I think too, what I've learned through going through really difficult things, and it's interesting that you're bringing this up. I think we're very similar. I have learned about 5 things you need to do, when you're going through a hard time, and one of them is that community. I have my God that I rely on, um, and one of those is eating well.
Yeah.
And I don't do sugar either.
Yeah.
And another thing that I could fall prey to, and this has sugar in it, is wine.
Yes.
Give me a glass of wine.
Very popular treatment for bad marriages.
Yes. Yes. And I think recently I haven't had any wine, and I've been so focused on eating well and starting to live my best life and going through really hard things in a different way.
Yes.
Which is amazing. And I just so recommend it for everyone. And it took me, I swear it. I mean, I know they say 30 days. I think it took me 6 months to go, wow, I haven't had wine and I don't want it, you know,
Well,
or whatever it is.
that's
Yeah.
very inspiring to a lot of listeners, I'm sure. Really, just because we think we need certain things. I thought I needed that sugar. I thought I needed those carbs. I thought I needed it. And it turns out what I needed was actual intimacy and connection and bodily contact, which I had completely forsaken.
Yes. Interesting. So interesting. So
And
now I feel
breastfeeding is actually not enough. It kind of hurts sometimes even.
Right. Well, and you know how, as when you're a mom in the throes of it, I mean, you do kind of feel like I am so darn tired. Leave me alone. I don't need anyone. And then, but it's funny, Laurie, because it doesn't end then. Because then the kids are, then you're working more. Your kids
Right.
are in high school. You're racing around to sporting events.
Exactly.
Then they go to college and you got a grandkid popping out over here that you're running. You're never not tired.
Right. The excuse, if you're a person who likes to be busy, that excuse is BS, and it always will be.
Yes.
And it always is, honestly. It always is. And the way my coach, pointed that out to me, and the way I would point it out to anyone who's listening, is if you have time for a glass of wine, if you have time for any sort of streaming service, if you are making time for social media scrolling, you have time to revitalize your marriage. Period. End of story. Do not argue with me. That is a fact.
Well, and I have to say too, Laurie, I love your coach, because she pointed out not all coaches would do this. They would jump into your career and getting that because that's what you wanted.
Right.
But she told you your marriage.
Yes.
I mean, so that makes
took away my sugar. Sorry.
I know. Coaches are so good at that. Taking away the sugar. But I will tell you, when you have dark chocolate that's not sweetened, boy, that kind of fills a good little urge in there too.
There are many workarounds, my loves.
I know. I love it. There's lots of things I enjoy that don't have to be sugar. But I love that she said that, because, I mean, let's face it, that is your core. That's your stability. That's your life. Like, why would you not put everything into that? Instead, we keep going everywhere else, thinking it's just there.
Why would you not? There's a simple answer to that, and we call it the chicken and the brat. So why would you not is fear, right? I was afraid of intimacy, I'll admit it. And I didn't freaking want to, right? I liked my donuts and bagels and Netflix, right? I just didn't act. So the brat and the chicken were worthy opponents until I had a coach. They won every time. They won every inner argument until I had a coach yelling a better idea.
Right, that you ended up believing. Okay, now I just have to ask you this. You had said you had a fear of intimacy. Tell me about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I feel like that's a whole other podcast. But at the end of the day, I just preferred to get my sensual needs met through food and maybe cuddling with my kid, because opening myself up to my husband would have meant learning how to have sex again, learning how to make it feel good, actually being present in my body. It's just, it's just harder for me, right?
I get that. I
A
get that.
combination of, I think, my lineage and my personal history. And again, I could connect some dots, but I think at the end of the day, there was a certain point where I was like, I'll use my body to find a husband and keep a husband, but I never thought my body could be a place for sensual or sexual pleasure. Like I just never even
Right. To bring you closer to someone.
Yeah, I just never even opened that can of worms because it just feels safer and more comfortable to do what I know, which is push myself at work, be a good mom, take care of my kids, keep this marriage on track like a business,
Yeah.
And it just was a whole realm I had not. It was the unknown. It was
okay. And again, I'm with you. Are most women? I mean, am I just like matching you, or is this like some?
I think it's pretty popular, and it goes back to what I was saying on the other podcast. If anybody has watched that one or listened to that one, we oftentimes people sell out to make a family, right? People do not develop intimacy and connection, do not explore their sexuality, especially at our age, right? It wasn't exactly in vogue quite yet. We weren't totally liberated,
right?
And so we really could have gotten into a relationship, hooked that, partner, had those kids, been extremely busy with career and kids, which, by the way, this is the first few decades where that's even a thing, right? They're like, this is new to do career and kids and keep a husband. Like that is so new.
Yes.
You don't know shit about it. And so it really is very possible that a whole gaggle of gals really have missed this opportunity, right? Unless somebody turned them on to it, right? Unless they had a super hippie mom, or they took a course with you, or they have a girlfriend down the block that, is a sex worker. Like, there's all kind of possibilities, but it does seem like it's the exception, not the norm.
Yeah.
It's figured out how to actually enjoy her body.
Right.
Have a truly fun physical relationship with their partner.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is on those lines, but what kind of opened my eyes to it, I have this darling friend, and, she has a kiddo going off to college. And I said, oh, how are you doing? That's hard. I mean, that just killed me every time someone went to college. And, she said, oh, she goes, my hubby and I, he's always been my number one, and I like listened to her, and she was like, I'll be fine. And I was like,
wow.
What? She's awesome. I mean, there's so many other little lessons that she's given me, but that's where I kind of went, huh.
Do you know there was a New York Times article, I think, about 15 or 20 years ago, and it really made a splash at the time. I don't know if you remember this, but it was someone saying, hey ladies, why don't you put your husband first, not the kids? And it was like it was like, wait, what? I thought we were supposed to put the kids first.
Yes.
So the pendulum swings. I personally think you can do both. I really do. So that's my great hope. But I remember hearing that and reading that and thinking, she's got a point.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we're not thinking long term. It's like not saving for retirement. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
It's not that bright.
No. Yeah. And so that was really eye-opening. So that I hope this has flown by. But Laurie, what I hope women can get out of this is how important your marriage is. It is the thing, it is what you have to stand on. And I know I always love when someone's going through a divorce and I want them to kind of try, are you sure you don't want to stay married and work a little harder? I always tell them to work on themselves. It seems like if you kind of start there, like you said, with that dream, and then invite the other person in to help you discover things, I think that's a really good start.
I agree.
So, listeners, if you want to get a hold of Laurie, we'll have all your information in the show notes. What's the best way for them to reach out? Just to go to your website and...
Yeah, and you have to dig around. The website is geared towards daters, but if you dig around into my offerings, you will see that the relationship retreat work is there, the couples work is there, and the private coaching work is there too. So just dig around on the website till you find what you need.
Well, and I'm going to dig around on your website, and then I want to have you back because I love everything you're sharing, and I so appreciate you being here, Laurie. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you.
Take good care.
Thank you for tuning in to another empowering episode of Saddle Up Live. As we conclude this exhilarating journey together, don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts, and become a valued member of our vibrant community. Because, as always, every woman deserves to thrive, flourish, and live her best life. Until the next time, saddle up and keep conquering those trails.